A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a nice and a lovely session on Getty Talks with a friend of mine from Nigeria, Mr. Patrick Anyiam. He is a specialist in dyslexia, and I know most of us who are in education are acquainted with the term. And there is also a very famous Bollywood movie, Tare Zameen Par, which was, focused on this very problem of dyslexia. One of our Bollywood stars and many celebrities have also been, been a patient of this. Not a patient exactly, but they have suffered from dyslexia. One of them being Abhishek Bachchan. So I have Patrick, who has himself, suffered from this and has been able to conquer it, and he's now dedicated his life to working towards with children who are affected by dyslexia. So, welcome, Patrick. Thank you for joining in the disruptive education movement started by Dr. Sunita Gandhi. He is going to talk about the three transformational factors of dyslexia in youth leadership.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be here. It's my pleasure to join this platform in order to share my experiences, both personal and professional, and to help improve our education system to be able to provide the kind of graduates, the kind of students, the kind of children that are fit for the work of the future and of today, that is. So today I will be talking about the three transforming factors of dyslexia in youth development. This topic is very dear to me. In the global scale, youths there's so much attention paid to the youths. For instance, in Nigeria, the youth body is larger than the children in comparison, and so the unengagement, disengagement that is in social, economic and political engagement, there have been a huge gap in community improvement. And so the best way to look at the situation, improve nation building, is to look at the gaps in youth. What are the skills that are lacking in youth? Why is it difficult for youth to fit into the work of today? And tracing these factors brings a redefinition of this topic, which is the three dyslexia abilities that can transform youth leadership. First of all, I would like to talk a little bit about dyslexia. There have been a lot of controversies, a lot of theory, a lot of opinions, both from international, local organizations, individuals, regarding what dyslexia actually is. And some of this definition as defined by organizations, dyslexia, British Dyslexia Organization, and about dyslexia as a disability. International Dyslexia Association also pointed dyslexia as a learning disability or a disorder. As someone who has very personal experience about dyslexia, I think these definitions are one-sided. And because of these definitions, which are adopted across schools, there have been so much emphasis on the development of literacy skills. Children who are born with creativity end up being educated out of creativity because of the rigid school system. There's so much emphasis on literacy in schools have really affected the creative potentials of children go to a youthful age. I'd like to say that, for instance, a child of about 5 years old is in school. Probably if you watch that child in school, you see the child is so practical about life. The child wants to create something, he wants to draw something, he wants to mold something He just want to improvise, just experimenting. Why this child is in school, this forces this child to on literate as he or she progresses in school level. For instance, the child is in primary one, and the child is taught drawing and using the crayon to make beautiful images, presentations of he or she sees physically in the real world. And then sometimes you see these children, engage in some kind of drama with imaginative play. You see them portray some of the attitudes they see around them. They just portray these are some of creativity. Children are born with this kind of skills. But what happens before they get to the end of their primary level? The school system understand that what they are doing is not shouldn't be doing all the time. In fact, most of the time, they should focus focus on reading, on calculations, focus on science. And this is just the school. This is the that can be found globally, not just in Nigeria or India. It is coming a standard globally. You see paying so much attention on the pure sciences, while the arts and the maths and humanities are so much attention is on literacy. Can you read? Can you write? And no one is talking about so much about innovation. Okay, they don't understand how it is done, but do you have some other ways to approach this? These are the kind of skills that encourage in our education system, and I will tell you why. As we advance into the fourth industrial revolution, the kind of skills, the kind of competencies that are needed, that are required, are creativity and innovation. I mean, about robotics. We are talking about intelligence. We are talking about augmented realities. These are born out of creativity. Creativity is nurtured in place of practice, not in theories, not in theories that are not that does not really deliver results. And so my own stand is the definition of dyslexia should be redefined so that individuals and people should have a balanced view perspective of what dyslexia is. In my opinion, based on my own experience, dyslexia is a learning difference and not really a learning disability. To use a very simple illustration to buttress this point. In the family, I have a boy and a girl, and due to the cultural situation, the cultural standard and contextual mechanisms of that particular community, so much emphasis played on the girl. Why? Because they value domestic work. Children who can perform domestic work, childbirth, and these are all connected to a child. So therefore, the female child is taken as more important than the male child. But outside domestic work, about other areas, or what about engaging in hard work that requires so much energy and stress? Can the girl perform or as much as the male child? No. So therefore, we cannot say the girl child is more important than the male child. Cannot say child is more important than the girl child. There should be an established balance, and this is how this lecture should be taken. I think the sciences and the arts should be treated with the same state. So here is the story, here is the story. Why dyslexia in school is seen as is a struggle. Why? Because children who have dyslexia have a problem with literacy. They have problem with reading, they have problem with writing, they have problem with spelling and comprehension. These are problems children with dyslexia face commonly. There are other that are connected to dyslexia. But these are factors affecting what dyslexia is causing. Now, in school, this is what it is. The struggles in school, you can read, you can write, and that's dyslexia. And what the school teaches is you must learn how to write. Right? But our system, there are three major abilities that this child portrays, and which enables this child to adapt in the society and to be able to provide solutions to the needs of his or her environment or community. And these should be the focus of education. I mean, the essence of education, the essence of position should be to enhance livelihood, to provide one with the opportunity to live happily. I think happiness is the primary aim of living. Whatever one is doing without happiness, I think that person is going to disengage from that activity. And I'm going to give an instance. An armed robber who goes about exploiting the wealth or the properties of other people is aware if he will spend years in jail. Now, it's not driven by this thought. The armed robber is driven by the thought that, oh, after acquiring this wealth, I can now live, I can now live a parent life. I can buy a car, and do this, I can do that. Now, this happiness, these values are what compels the armed robber to go about stealing. Now, this is how it is with dyslexia. The target should be that school system should produce children who can use their creative powers and bring about community development. Now, when we talk about the three abilities of dyslexia, the three strengths of dyslexia, I would like to start from the first one. First one appeals to me the most, and creativity. Creativity here, ability of a child or an individual, a youth, to be able to bring concepts together, be able to see how they interrelate, and some a new solution, a new product, a new idea. This is creativity. The school system does not really encourage this, and with dyslexia are suffering because of this discouragement. Now, the other skill is the ability of a child or of an individual to see relation in problems. You see how then particular activity connects with another activity, and how bringing all this together can result to creativity. The ability to see processes is one of the skills is the most. The ability to identify processes and procedures in every engagement. For instance, a teacher is teaching, and that dyslexic child have that ability to penetrate in the teaching pattern of this teacher. That dyslexic child has what it takes. The brain structure is already positioned naturally by the dyslexia. So the child is able to understand how this is teaching, the communication structure, the pedagogical strategies. The child is internalized how the processes of delivering instruction is actually creating durable knowledge. Other children, other students can understand. This child can process all this information and extract the process, and is able to lift that process and apply it in another context to the same result. This is a very powerful skill that is not provided in schools, especially at the primary or the secondary level. And therefore, there is need for school system to make some useful adjustments. I would like to bring one of the activities that are used in school that actually captures creativity, and that is building blocks. Building blocks is a very creative activity for children. You will not find building blocks at the secondary level. In fact, through my secondary school level, during my time, I never engaged, or there were never organized any creative activity that forces us to bring our energies and abilities. No. The primary level, you find a little bit of this, and because children at that level creative. So building blocks, you keep and you expose and your child to these blocks, and you see child, the brain is functioning. You see child molding. Now, what most of these teachers pay attention to is the establishment of letter skill in the brain of this child, enabling this child to establish letter skill, knowledge, and these are literacies and numeracy skills, that is. But how about looking at the ability of this child to compare and contrast colors, to identify similarities, disparities, to now, how about using this particular knowledge or this awareness and teaching the child how to apply it in real world? Because this is what education should be all about. It should be delivering knowledge that can be contextualized, knowledge that can be implemented to about results that people can see, result that has living. Um, that being said, there are few pointers that can help us support dyslexic, because as children move to adulthood, as they to youthful age, as they move to adulthood, their creative are kind of educated out of them. So we need to support children. We need to build their creativity. We need to provide some enabling environment that nurtures their strength. Because school, by the time they graduate from the university and they come out into the world, or it is their creativity that is needed. I would like share an experience when I was still in the secondary school. What happened was, whenever I engage in ball, street football, baseball, then so sometimes we don't have football. We play. I'm talking about soccer. We also have the football itself, and we are how do we do this? I really need an activity, and while others are despondent, thinking, myself, I begin to think very fast. Do you know that I came up with some improvisation, I gather polythenes, cellophane, many as possible. We gather them, and we put them all together and try to create something round, and then use a very strong rope to tie in order to hold this polythene together. And before you know, I have something that could be used, be football. And that is what we use. Most of the time, we use it whenever we ball. And that solves the problem. And this is creativity. But when I went to school, I was told to desist from this kind of activity, told to focus on literacy, focus on reading, focus theories, and gradually creativity was being drained out of me. Creativity is like a muscle. If it is not used, it will fizzle away. It will that brain part that let's create according to science only the case. So there are few investments we make in the education system, and it is actually done effectively. It will help to improve the system and produce the creates that will need future works. The first one is providing inclusive classroom and school-wide policy support. These are patterns with assessment sake should not only be assessed based on their literacy skills. There should be some other models that tackle the other aspects, creativity of children, their innovation. We don't have such assessment in school. Everything is focused on creativity. Everything is focused rather on reality. You see what you can do with your hand by and not what you can do by creating. And this should be actually looked into, addressed. The second one is actually training teachers to be able to support the dyslexic children. I have been to so many schools in the course of supporting children who have dyslexia, because I actually established an organization called Dyslexia Orientation Project. We are from school to school in schools, identifying dyslexic children and providing activity-based pedagogical system strategies. And these have been enabling children to tap into their creativity, build on their strengths to overcome their weakness. That is the rationale, because the dyslexia is affecting their literacy. That part of their brain that processes language is already underdeveloped. So the only way to overcome it is to move to the right side of the brain and develop some skills so that build on strengths, increase the strength and the strength to be able to dominate the weakness. That is how we can conquer dyslexia. So train teachers to be able to support children, train teachers to be able to identify children who have dyslexia. It will really go a long way to provide enabling environment for the children to thrive. And then the next is to provide additional literacy program. And this is where my organization comes in, because teachers are already so strict, attached to the curriculum. The focus on curriculum, this is what it is, and you go by it. So what my organization do is that we are providing project-based or activity-based programs that actually teaches literacy, but through a creative approach. So by so doing, the students are able to improve their creativity, their innovation, while also learning literacy, and not learning and destroying or educating them out of creativity. So I think if these three, I'm calling on educational policymakers at local level, at national level, international level, to be able to put some kind of policy reformation that will enhance practice and a better environment for our dyslexic children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you so much for explaining it so well. And so, if you say dyslexia, what is the age usually when it is discovered? I mean, I obviously is it very prominent during a certain age, or it is like you can discover it even when the child is a toddler?
Okay, thank you very much. Dyslexia can be identified as early as 2 years, and we encourage parents to try to take their children for screening, have their children trained and diagnosed for dyslexia. At the age of 2, you can actually identify it. If the child is struggling with language, the child finds something over and over, these are signs. We focus on signs. Once a parent sees that the child is struggling with maybe speaking or writing, understanding, that is the point. Is a take the child diagnosis, take the child for screening. It might be dyslexia. Aside that, there are children who also have foundational literacy problem. They are not dyslexic, but they have foundational literacy problem. So the diagnosis will help to identify those who are dyslexic and those who have literacy problem. If a dyslexic and one who has foundational literacy problem in a class, the one who has foundational literacy problems will advance further than the dyslexic. So that is why we need kind of teaching approach that can support both age grade. So
All
at the
right.
age of 2, you can actually identify dyslexia,
There is a little
and
bit
at the age
of
of
network.
5, you can start intervention.
All right, I was able to gather what you're saying. So it is discoverable, at the age of say 2, when the child starts learning
Yeah.
communication. All right, and I would also like to
Yeah.
ask you, can these children be taught along with normal children, or and is there like with the normal skills, with the normal methodologies and pedagogies that a teacher is teaching in the class? Can she also be able to handle the child with a dyslexia, or is it that she has to actually adopt a different method?
Okay. The connection was actually not very clear, but I don't know if you
So I wanted to
asking.
ask you, if there are two children in a class, one is a dyslexia student and the other is a normal child. So can the teacher still adopt the same method of teaching and be able to cater the dyslexia child, or she needs to separately sit with him?
Okay, like my organization, there is a new discovery we realized. It is that teaching all children in a dyslexia friendly way, even non-dyslexia children learn in that manner. So there is no need for separating children. Teach all children as if like all children learns practically. All children should be practical to creativity. Everybody learns practically. So use the general dyslexia friendly approach. Teach all children. They will all learn instead of using the traditional method and having the dyslexic children at least. The
Right.
approach, the specific approach to use is actually activity based. Use project based. Engage young children in projects. Let them use their strengthen their motors. Engage them in things, not down and only the ears and the ears. Let them feel it. Let them, use emotional intelligence. Use all the skills. That is how to improve learning for dyslexic children.
Is dyslexia curable? Is it curable? Can it be like it will never come back? Is it like, the child will never ever, uh, getting this kind of thing again? Or is it that you teach them how to manage?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just use myself. As much as I've been able to overcome dyslexia to an extent, I still struggle with it. Dyslexia is not curable. We can't cure it, but we can overcome it. So what I did in my case was to develop some skills that have enabled me to overshadow my weakness. So it doesn't really show up, but I still struggle with it sometimes. Dyslexia cannot be cured, but can only be overcome. And the way to overcome dyslexia is to build on the dyslexic child's strength in order to overshadow the weakness. So it is not curable.
Okay, so like, I mean, the child learns to manage it. It's not something that will go away. It remains. It is there. All right.
Yes, it
So
remains. It remains.
thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you so much for taking out time. And despite all the internet issues that you have been facing, you were able to manage this show with us, and we have been waiting for it for a long time. It's Patrick's
Thank
birthday
you.
today, and so from a Global Education and Training Institute, Patrick, we wish you a very, very happy birthday, and pray to God that He showers you with His choicest blessings, and also that you do well in your life, and you actually reach out to millions of children out there in the world who need your help.
Very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. And I hope to also come another time to share more of my experiences and discoveries. Thank you very
You're
much.
most welcome. You're most welcome. Thank you.